You had breakfast this morning, lunch around noon, dinner sometime after 6. You've done this almost every day of your life, and you've probably never once asked why, because it feels like the most natural thing in the world. It isn't. It's a schedule you inherited, and it's barely 250 years old. By the end of this, you'll know exactly whose schedule you're actually keeping, because it isn't yours. 30,000 years ago, people in what's now the Czech Republic gathered around hearths to eat. Not at set times, whenever there was food. A site on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, more than 20,000 years old, held over 140 different kinds of seeds and nuts, along with birds, fish, and meat. A diet built entirely around whatever showed up that day, not what the clock said. There was no clock, there was no schedule, there was just food and its absence. And forget the stereotype of the meat-obsessed caveman gnawing on a bone. Meat was a windfall, not a guarantee. Some days a hunt paid off, most days it didn't. Plant foods were the reliable ones, the ones that kept people fed on the days the hunt came back empty. Cave paintings in Spain show people raiding wild beehives for honey, using ropes and vines, at least 8,000 years ago. A prized treat, hunted the same way for millennia. And a disputed but genuinely startling 2025 discovery in England pushed the timeline for deliberate firemaking back to at least 400,000 years, hundreds of thousands of years earlier than scientists had assumed. Then agriculture happened, and something shifted. Farming tied people to the land, and the land had a rhythm. Sunrise to sunset. One light meal early. One larger meal, cooked over the hearth later in the day. Still not 3, still not fixed. Different cultures found their own rhythm after that. In Sparta, soldiers ate together at day's end in communal halls, in groups of 15. A single shared meal called syssitia, mandatory. No exceptions. Vikings split their day into 2. Dagmal, the day meal, and natmal, the night meal. In Aboriginal Australia, cooking in earth ovens meant 1 real meal a day, built around how long the ground itself took to cook the food. And Rome technically had 3 named meals. But ask a Roman which one actually counted, and the answer was cena, eaten at day's end. The other 2, according to food historian Caroline Yeldham, were barely meals at all. A bit of bread, eaten standing up, just to hold you over. The Romans believed eating more than that wasn't healthy. It was gluttony. Egypt landed on 2 meals as well. Rich or poor, the pattern held. Bread and beer in the morning, then a heartier meal of vegetables, meat, and more bread in the early evening. 2 meals, not 3, whether you were a laborer or royalty. That word, gluttony, followed breakfast around for over 1,000 years. In medieval Europe, even kings mostly skipped it. Historian Ian Mortimer's research found breakfast was reserved for the sick, the elderly, young monks who needed something before dawn prayers, and travelers leaving before sunrise. When England's King Edward I turned 65 in 1305, he hired a cook specifically to make him breakfast, because at that age, skipping it was finally considered a health risk instead of a vice. For everyone else, still young, still healthy, still working, 1 meal around 10:30 in the morning, a second, lighter one, about 5 hours later. That was it. So who decided you needed 3? Not you. Not your ancestors choosing it for themselves. 2 institutions get there first, centuries before a single factory existed. The British Royal Navy, from the 1500s onward, put sailors on 3 regular meals to match the ship's watch schedule. And in 1515, an English statute forced craftsmen into a 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. workday, long enough that breakfast stopped being optional and started being required, just to survive the shift. Then, the Industrial Revolution finishes the job. Factories didn't just employ people. They owned their time. As historian Dr. Megan Elias puts it, time itself became the property of the factory owner. And a factory owner needs workers fed, focused, and back at the machine on schedule. Breakfast before the shift. A short, fast break at midday, quick enough that entire new foods got invented just to fit inside it, like the sandwich. Dinner finally after the whistle blows and the workday actually ends. 3 meals. Fixed times. Not because your body demanded it. Because a ship's watch, a 1515 statute, and a factory clock did. And here's the part that should bother you. We still don't actually know if it's the healthiest way to eat. A recent controlled study had people eat within an early window, then a late one, tracking them closely the whole time. Eating later really did shift their body's internal clock. Sleep and wake times moved with it by roughly 40 minutes. That sounds like proof the old schedule matters. But when the researchers checked the actual health markers, insulin sensitivity, blood sugar, blood fats, inflammation, none of them meaningfully improved. The timing changed the clock. It didn't change the body. In other words, after 250 years of eating this way without question, we're still not sure if the schedule we all just accepted is actually good for us. We just know exactly where it came from. And it wasn't a doctor. And it wasn't your own body. Tonight, when you sit down for dinner at the exact same time you always do, remember, that's not your body talking. That's a factory whistle that stopped ringing over a century ago and never actually told you to stop listening.